Hadith number 38. الحديث الثامن والثلاثون. الحديث الثامن والثلاثون. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الله تعالى قال من عادى لي وليا فقد آذنته بالحرب وما تقرب إلي عبدي بشيء أحب إلي مما افترضت عليه وما يزال عبدي يتقرب إلي بالنوافل حتى أحبه فإذا أحببته كنت سمعه الذي يسمع به وبصره الذي يبصر به ويده التي يبطش بها ورجله التي يمشي بها وإن سألني أعطيته ولئن استعاذني لأعيذنه. رواه البخاري. This hadith of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, the principle in this hadith or the qa'idah in this hadith is attaining or how to attain the love and the protection of Allah and the wilayah of Allah. Okay? So the first thing the Prophet speaks, the hadith, again it's hadith Qudsi, Allah says, whoever opposes my wali. Okay? What is the definition of a wali of Allah? The wali of Allah. What is the definition? Anybody want to guess? Naam, Shaykh. Okay, friend. Okay, but what is the definition that the Quran gives us? ألا إن أولياء الله لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون الذين آمنوا وكانوا يتقون. Right? The wali of Allah are those people who have iman and they have taqwa. لذلك the ulama, they define, the definition they give of the wali of Allah is كل مؤمن تقي. Every believer that has taqwa. So we understand from this, from the Quran, that any mu'min has the ability to attain the level of the wilayah of Allah. Right? So it's not, as some people might understand, some special type of status that only a special people can get and nobody can attain. La. The condition is that you have correct iman established in your heart and you have taqwa. Right? The obedience of Allah and staying away from that which Allah has prohibited you from staying from. Okay? So, this hadith is teaching us what it requires for a person to be from the awliya of Allah. The hadith is teaching us what are those things that if a person does, it will allow them to be from the awliya of Allah. And the hadith mentions two categories of people, one higher than the other. The minimum is the mu'min who fulfills and does all of the obligatory actions, all of the wajibat. They fulfill the wajibat. Okay? So that is a means of being from the awliya of Allah. But the higher level than that is the person who does the wajibat, the obligatory actions, as well as the extra voluntary actions. لذلك Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here in the hadith Qudsi, He says, Tabaraka wa ta'ala, number one, وَمَا تَقَرَّبَ إِلَيَّ عَبْدِي بِشَيْءٍ أَحَبَّ إِلَيَّ مِمَّا افْتَرَضْتُ عَلَيْهِ. That there is nothing that a person does that will get them closer to Allah than doing the actions that are wajib, that are obligatory. Praying 5 times a day, fasting in the month of Ramadan, paying the zakah if you qualify to pay zakah, performing hajj if you are eligible to perform hajj. Doing the obligatory wajibat will make you from those who will be close to Allah, the awliya of Allah. Okay? But what will increase Allah's love for you is for you to also, on top of that, do the extra good deeds. وَمَا يَزَالُ, as Allah says, وَلَا يَزَالُ عَبْدِي يَتَقَرَّبُ إِلَيَّ بِالنَّوَافِلِ حَتَّى أُحِبَّهُ. And the believer, my servant does not continue to do the extra voluntary deeds except that I love them. And if I love them, look at this now. Prophet Allah is saying, if I love my servant, كنت سمعه الذي يسمع به وبصره الذي يبصر به ويده الذي يبطش بها ورجله التي يمشي بها ولئن سألني لأعطينه ولئن استعاذني لأعيذنه. If they reach that level, Allah says that the person will, his sight, his sight and his hearing, right? And whatever his hand touches and whatever his feet move to, all of it is going to be in line with that which is pleasing to Allah. Right? The meaning of this portion of the hadith is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect this servant of his. How? By giving him the tawfiq and the success to do the actions that Allah loves. So they will only be looking at that which pleases Allah. They will only be hearing that which pleases Allah. They will only be touching that which pleases Allah. They will be walking towards that which pleases Allah. And if they make dua to Allah and they ask Allah, Allah will give them. And if they ask Allah for protection, Allah will protect them. That is the highest level of wilayah, being from the awliya of Allah. لذلك we see from the stories of the Salaf, the Sahaba and the Salaf, how they were with regards to, you'll hear stories of the Salaf where they would say that they would make dua and it will immediately be accepted. Right? Why? Because they've reached a level where they are fulfilling all of the obligations, and on top of that, they're fulfilling the extra acts of worship. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them tawfiq, where He has protected them by guiding them towards doing those things that are of khair. So this hadith, the principle is, what are those things that will result in you attaining the love of Allah and the protection of Allah? What is the wali of Allah, and how to attain that level of being from the awliya of Allah? Okay? So that's the main message or the principle in this particular hadith.